chocolate rabbits void of the message of the lamb. Tornado had almost decided against going to the shearing, but the next morning was bright and sunny, and he found himself jumping through the meadow on the way to see her after all. The dog was truly faithful, for he saw the young ewe right away, and even though she was large and her woolly coat was ready for its first shearing, her spirit was every bit as sweet. The gentle ewe was eager to hear Tornado's sad story, for ever since she was a tiny lamb, she was determined that she would in some way help save the bunny from the dangers of the chocolate. You would think that you would be reassured to find the chocolate was not a ferocious beast, but indeed a rather soft candy that easily melted in the sun. But this was not the case. "Easter bunny indeed!" she exclaimed angrily, for she understood the danger right away, and that Tornado's quest was not for himself, but for the children of Adam, and all the creatures of the woods as well. Poor Tornado, you are as bold as a bear, but you would have to speak the words of Adam to expose the serpent's horrible trickery. How could a rabbit prove such a thing? How? Like every creature, the woolly ewe understood the children of Adam must remember the lamb and never forget what sacrifice had been made on their behalf. As a fragrant breeze wafted through the clover, something special seemed to dawn upon her, and she joyfully declared, "I'm sure I know my part." Tornado had always expected this dear friend would in some way help him in his dream, but before he knew her plan, the shepherd made his way toward them with steel shears that gleamed like teeth. When the shepherd firmly held the young ewe and began to work, it was more than Tornado could bear. Not understanding this cruel sight, he went seeking the shelter of the thorn bush. You can't imagine his dismay when he discovered the thorn bush was gone. The hay machine had run it over, and here and there coils of thorn branches blew wildly across the meadow. Tornado ran on. Fall turned to winter, a serious time for the creatures of the woods, and Tornado helped his family prepare a warm burrow to battle the cold, but he himself found it even harder to battle the fear of the awful shears, and he only wished he could know the ewe was safe. One day, when the ground was covered with snow, the sound of a dog barking flowed across the meadow from the ridge. Tornado's family was amazed when Tornado went leaping the snowdrifts toward the sound. The dog that guarded the sheep waited until he saw Tornado a speck in the distance. Then, in his powerful bark, he quickly delivered the ewe's message. "Prepare a place in the garden. Be ready on Lamb's Day morning." As quickly as he came, the dog disappeared over the ridge. The echo of his bark could still be heard as icy snow began to swirl from the winter sky, but for Tornado, the promise of spring had come. It was with a joyful heart he bounded home to tell his family the ewe was safe. "What does she mean?" Tornado's father insisted. "How do we prepare a place?" Tornado had no way of knowing, for the sheep were far away and would not be brought back until spring. "Wait until spring, Tornado," his mother reassured him. "We will do what we can." Spring came, and Lamb's Day was fast approaching, and still there was no sign of the flock. The rabbit family knew that somehow they must help the children of Adam look away from the chocolate bunny to the Lamb of God. The ewe would expect them to be prepared, and all they could think to do was prepare as all animals do. They gather, they store, they build. Just a day before Lamb's Day, Tornado's mother and her sisters pulled the soft fur they used to line their bunny nest and brought it to the garden. When the pile was large and full, Mother was tired. "I don't know if this is what she means," Mother sighed, "but we have given our very best." "Don't worry, Mother," Tornado said. "The children of Adam will look to the lamb until the moment of his return." But Tornado was sure this was not enough. While wondering what to do next, he noticed a squirrel rushing about in the branches above. "Sir," Tornado called from the base of the tree, trying to follow the movement of the scampering shadow far above. Finally, the shadow stopped a moment. "Are you talking to me?" the squirrel called down. "Yes, I am, sir," Tornado replied, relieved to have finally gotten his attention. Down the tree the squirrel came. "Tornado," he exclaimed, "can I do something for you, son?" Sir, I was wondering. Tornado hesitated. Well, I'm waiting. Tornado took a deep breath. Do you think it would take long to make a pile of nuts under the tree by the garden? Yes, I do. The squirrel was not amused. And why would I waste a pile of nuts out there? It won't be a waste. Your nuts may help the Easter problem. The squirrel was so perplexed it was a moment before he had anything to say at all. Now, Tornado, he began patiently, I know how important this particular problem is to your family, and believe me, it grieves us all, but I don't think we're going to be able to do a thing about it. It's part of the snake's trickery, that's all. We await the return of the lamb. We pray for Adam. What more can we do? Tornado looked at the squirrel's bright eyes waiting, his strong, wiry body, ready to run off and finish a day's work. Tornado knew the squirrel was kind, but he also knew he was busy, and he would have to think fast. Sir, this plan may help spoil further trickery. The squirrel looked concerned. The animals were always ready to wonder if they could have warned Eve in some way. Tornado could see he had his attention, so he continued hopefully. I think Adam could understand our way of remembering. Now the squirrel unexpectedly bristled. Young rabbit, our kingdom is spoiled. And will you speak of Adam? Sir, I'm loyal to Adam, Tornado cried, feeling greatly misunderstood. The creatures knew that Adam was made in the very image of God, and that this was the cause of the snake's hatred. To lose respect for Adam would only further the serpent's vile purposes. The squirrel softened. Tornado, the forest thinks well of you. You are a very observant young animal. I will listen to you, but please speak quickly. I must get to my work. Tornado took a deep breath as the sun sparkled through the trees above him. He knew his words must be direct and brief. I have observed Adam's family since the gallant boy returned me to the garden. Often I have watched from the bush by the back door, and I am sure that the reason for the Easter problem is all because of not remembering. Remembering, the squirrel repeated thoughtfully. Remembering, Tornado repeated sure, and he hopefully continued. Had Eve remembered, really remembered God's words, Tornado began, but the squirrel did not want to talk too familiarly. Memory of the life that began in the Garden of Eden was not a difficult task for the simple creatures of the woods, and the devastation of the day of Eve was always fresh. Tornado, he hurried the subject away from doubtful speculations. It's almost spring, and I don't have many left. But if a pile of nuts in the garden will help the memory of Adam, I'll make it. But how will I know if your plan has worked? You will know on the day of the lamb. The squirrel was impressed that the little rabbit risked so much. The whole forest would be there to watch the children of Adam. My pile will be there. With a nod, the squirrel was up the tree, streaking through sparkling boughs in the afternoon sunlight. Tornado sat a moment, overwhelmed, thinking of the humiliation. Good day, Tornado. 2 sparrows greeted him from up above. One flew down and hopped about the base of the tree. Tornado, do you see my nest? Tornado looked, and 2 boughs up, Mrs. Sparrow nodded down at him. As you can see, I overheard your conversation, and Tornado, I owe it to your mother to say, be careful. Adam's back door is not the place for a rabbit of the woods. We must fear Adam, and indeed creature must fear creature, until the snake's trickery is over. Tornado listened respectfully, but the sparrow did not go on. He seemed to be waiting. Sir, I know you're right. The curse will not be over until the return of the lamb, Tornado soberly stated. And no one knows the day of his return? Mrs. Sparrow reminded from above. Exactly, Mr. Sparrow chirped. But still the sparrows seemed to be waiting. Tornado began slowly, feeling something was expected of him. We know this because our nests are built the same as they have been since we left the Garden of Eden. The rabbits in the ground, the birds up above. Every generation does not change. But with Adam... Tornado, you observe too much, Mr. Sparrow stopped him. We wish to return to that garden, so do speak well of Adam, Mrs. Sparrow warned. Be quick, young rabbit, Mrs. Sparrow continued impatiently. You gave the squirrel a job. We want to do our part as well. Tornado was surprised at the work that was unfolding. Could your family make a pile of twigs near the garden? Next to the squirrels, Mr. Sparrow affirmed, and they were off with a flutter. Tornado marveled at the generosity of his fellow creatures, and when he began to wonder what he himself could bring, he heard the most concerned little voice. "Oh dear, you seem to be sitting on my flower bed." Tornado quickly moved to expose a slightly flattened bed of purple violets. "Excuse me," he apologized, as the field mouse hurried to freshen things up a bit before she made a rather small bouquet. "Do you like them?" "Very nice," Tornado complimented, still distracted with his thoughts. "We must all prepare a place in the garden," she explained, and was about to hurry off when a mole popped his head out of the ground. "I heard we're helping Adam remember the lamb. Is this true?" "Very true," she replied, and was gone. "I have just the thing," the mole mumbled, and when he noticed Tornado staring down at him, he gave an unexpected warning. "That's you, Tornado." The nearsighted mole blinked at Tornado's long ears blocking the bright sun above them. "Of course it is. You have a lot on your shoulders, son. Your family name's mixed up in this. Now get to work. Surely you can think of something." With that, the serious fellow disappeared. Tornado was amazed. If even the smallest animals, the busy mice and moles, could do their part, certainly there was something he could bring. Tornado was wishing for the solitude of the thorn bush, where he had always been able to think best, when he crossed the path of the raccoon, carrying shiny pebbles from the brook. "Come and see," the raccoon insisted, and Tornado was obliged to follow him to the garden. News had traveled quickly, and the progress in the garden was accomplished with joy. Tornado's heart was encouraged until he noticed a pile of feathers, and surmised these must be the unwelcome offerings from the hawk and the owl. Danger so close to the garden caused Tornado to fearfully glance at the sky. Suddenly a shadow appeared to cover the trembling bunny, and it wasn't until Tornado recognized a kind voice that he realized he was under the shadow of the great buck. "I was afraid," Tornado confessed.